people in the generation after me, many of them don't understand it.
Yeah.
So I grew up hearing French spoken every day in the house, understanding everything that was said. My mother would talk to me in French and she'd tell me to go to the store and je peux aller au magasin, achète mon des cigarettes, go buy a cigarette,
right.
and so forth. And I always was interested. When I was a kid, I would go to like my mom's parents in the country, and I'd visit. And I'd always like to get up early in the morning, sit there with my mom and papa, and drink coffee.
Mm-hmm.
And they'd make it the old drip coffee pot, and I always talked French with them since I was a kid. But I wasn't like I'd speak what they call crooked French.
Okay.
Which is it was I could speak it, but it wasn't. I wasn't real fluent, but I liked it. I was since I was a kid. I was always wanted, interested.
Right.
And then when I started playing the music in the late '70s, around that time, you may have read this story. I went to the Acadian Music Festival in Lafayette.
Mm-hmm.
And Codeville, Council for the Development of French in Louisiana, was still running the festival at that time. So it was very much a French festival in the 70s. Today it's still some French. Thanks to Barry Oncelet, it keeps the French there at the festival. But not nearly to the extent it was in the 70s because they weren't trying to cater as much to the tourists.
Right.
So I went to the festival and all of a sudden it's like, wow, I'd go order my beer in French, and everybody that was there was speaking French, and so I came home. I told my mom in French. I said, "À cette heure en allant, on va parler juste en français." I don't know if you know any French.
No, I don't.
And I said, from now on, I want to speak just French with y'all. And I just was determined to become fluent. I said to myself, it's a shame you don't speak French better than you do.
Sure.
Being you from a pure French background here in Louisiana. And I believe if you're going to play Cajun music, Cajun French music in Louisiana, you should make an effort to learn to speak French.
Mm-hmm.
Now, it's not the young people's fault they weren't raised with French. Most of the young players today, maybe their mom and dad don't speak French at home.
Right.
But you can make an effort to try.
Yeah.
And like the girl that plays fiddle with me, Gina Forsythe, she's from Alabama.
Mm-hmm.
She's been playing Cajun music now for 20 years. Since she came to Louisiana, and she's one of the best Cajun fiddle players, bar none.
Yeah.
And Gina, she can converse some in French, but she's made an effort.
Right.
David Greeley made an effort to learn French.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
And I believe I think that's good because personally, if somebody requested a song from me, came and talked French to me while here I am singing and playing this French music, and if somebody came and spoke to me in French and I wouldn't understand them, I'd be kind of embarrassed.
Right. Understand that.
So plus I love the culture, I love the people, I love the language. It's all tied in together.
Yeah.
And of course I know I'll never have a hit record.
Yeah.
I know that it's just if I can, success to me is if I can continue to make a living at what I'm doing and have a decent life with my family,
right,
and continue to play the music of my culture.
Yeah.
That's success. I'll never get any big notoriety.
Sure.
And that's not really important to me. Important thing to me is if I can support my family and continue.
Yeah.
Of course, before my time, in the last 20 years, I started in 1980 professionally, so I've been playing 21 years professionally.
Right.
Before our time, in the time of Dewey Balfin, and I don't know if there was anybody that really made a living playing music. There weren't many.
I wouldn't think so, no.
They were mostly farmers, and I know Dewey Balfin drove a school bus.
Right.
And like that. They did different things. A guy like me and Michael Doucet and people, our time, we just come along at a certain time when it's possible that you can, make a living playing the music.
Well, and I think the guys...
That was unheard of until the last 20 years. In fact, I was probably one of the first ones.
Yeah.
You know.
And the guys that did, I guess, they really played other genres of music, and they kept kind of an element of Cajun music in it. I'm thinking of, say, like, Jimmy Newman and Belton Richard. They really made their money outside the boundaries that you spoke of, but they kept that touch in there.
It was more, yeah. I think once you pass those two lines I'm talking about, the boundaries,
yeah.
I mean, at what point are you playing Cajun music with a rock influence, or at what point does it become rock music with some Cajun influence?
Yeah.
When it crosses that line.
Yeah.
And, of course, I know even Michael Ducey, I think until 1984 or so, I think still had a job, I think, working for the Catholic Diocese in Lafayette or something like that. So, that, I mean, it's greatly expanded in recent years. And in 1980, I was probably among the very first ones that I graduated from college.
Mm-hmm.
I was playing Cajun music.
Yeah.
I just kept playing and I stopped and haven't used my degree for anything.
So you've never had to have a day job?
No.
Wow. That's certainly success within the realm of what you do, a certain type of success.
I'm happy.
It must get harder. How old are your kids?
It's getting harder and harder.
How old are your kids, Bruce?
My kids, my oldest one is going to be 10 in October.
Okay.
She's the one on the Petit Cadeau album.
Okay. She's the same.
I got all girls.
Okay.
Girls. Katie Jean, who's going to be 10 in October.
Uh-huh.
Michelle, who's going to be 7 in August.
Okay.
And Angel.
Okay.
Who's going to be 3 next February. She's 2.5.
Okay.
So I got 3 little girls.
That's a heavy, yeah.
When you talk about the music business, I guess one thing that would make me sort of different than from maybe almost anybody you've interviewed is that I've never had a booking agent.
Right.
I'm probably about the only guy that I can think of that's on whatever has attained a certain level within the style of music.
Right.
Recording 4 albums for Rounder that has never had a booking agent. I've basically been kind of an independent guy totally my whole career.
Now, do you and your wife do it all yourselves?
Yeah, I mean, I got a call this morning for a gig in September. I just been booking myself for 21 years, and I've never hired a roadie in my life.
Right.
I carry my own equipment. If I got to go, a job September 18th, I got to go. If I get this job, I'm going to a hotel in downtown New Orleans. I'm going to drive over there in my van. I'll unload the equipment, go to the 3rd floor and set up a PA system. And when I finish setting up the PA system, I got to get it to sound good, and then I'm going to play, front the band, pick up the PA, go home. And so, I've never had a roadie. I've never had a booking agent or a manager or anything. Just been kind of an independent guy from day one. So I guess that's kind of different.
It is different.
as far as an agent, perhaps if I could find an agent who really was a fan of mine, and a friend, and somebody who would work with me the way I would like to work,
right,
I would consider it. But I don't. I got 3 kids. My family's the most important thing to me.
Yeah.
Okay. I really don't want to be away from home 300 days a year.
Right.
I mean, now I've been fortunate enough that I play the dance every Sunday.
Yeah.
And I get local jobs around here playing convention type jobs.
Okay.
I play music festivals here in Louisiana, and I travel too.
Right.
But everything I've done, I've played in about 12 different countries or so. Everything I've done has just happened.
Right.
Like, I went to Venezuela, I went to El Salvador, and they called me here at my house.
Yeah.
There was nobody promoting me.
Yeah.
No, agent or anything. I do find though it's hard to get into certain folk festivals without an agent.
Okay.
I think a lot of times you're ignored.
Have you had any examples of that? I'm wondering what.
Well, how can you say an example? But when you.
I see. Yeah, if it doesn't come up.
To the Edmonton Folk Festival.
Right.
Picking that one out as an example.
Yeah.
Year after year for 6-7 years in a row.
Right.
Yourself. And you just keep getting rejection letters every year. And then you see the schedule at the Edmonton Folk Festival, and you see other people playing there that you say, well, they're not better than me.
Exactly. Yeah, I understand.
And, you really get discouraged in that sense. In fact, I've kind of developed sort of a hardened attitude where, to some degree, I don't really care if I travel there or not.
Right.
I'm not picking on one festival.
No, I understand.
There are certain folk festivals that I've kind of taken the attitude I don't give a damn if I ever play them.
And the assumption is,
I feel like I have one of the top bands around.
Yeah.
And it's just kind of a shame that it's almost like if you're not tied in with certain agencies, it's almost impossible to play some of these things.
I think it's probably true for two reasons. One is that there's probably an ongoing business relationship between the festival and the agent, so there's a level of comfort. The agent might bring in several acts, so you make one phone call and you work with one agent and you get several acts for your festival. It's just easy. And the other thing is, for some people who, and I think this is probably laziness on the part of artistic directors for festivals, is that they use the agents as a filter. They don't have time or the inclination to listen to all this stuff.
In fact, I tell you what, you'll find this interesting.
Yeah.
Okay. The Sing Out magazine.
Mm-hmm.
I was reading an article written by the editor,
right,
maybe 2 or 3 years ago,
mm-hmm.
4 years ago, criticizing today's folk festivals for not trying to find different acts, new talent stuff.
Right.
He said they basically, like in the 60s and the 70s, and you might already hit this in your research. He said, like when the folk festivals were new in the 60s and so forth, he said the artistic directors of the festivals would travel different places and find...
That's how Dewey went to Newport.
Well, yeah. They would find people and try to bring them to their festivals. He said they hardly do that at all today. He said all they do is talk to the same handful of agents and keep booking their festivals.
Right.
He said what's happened as a result is the same acts playing the festivals over and over, and there's not much variation from one festival to another.
Right. Not only is that how Dewey went to Newport, but Dewey was, of course, much harder to find than it would be to find you, because you're out there. You got records,
We're talking about Newport, okay? I sent them my CDs and press kit every year for about 7. I tell you what, in the early 90s, I finally decided, like in 94, I think it was, I said, well, maybe I need to promote myself.
Right.
And for about 6, 7 years in a row, I sent out press kits every fall, and I made a list of about 50 festivals or so that I was targeting. And, and I might hit on 3 or something like that.
Yeah.
And Newport Folk Festival is one, and because, it would be an honor to play there because of what it did for Cajun music.
Yeah.
And, and I sent them my stuff like 7, 8 years in a row, and I'd get I remember getting like rejection letters, but then on the bottom of the rejection letter, a guy would write to me and say, really enjoyed your CD, enjoyed hearing all the new Cajun songs. So it kind of would encourage me.
Yeah.
And then you send the stuff the year after, and the year after, and the year after, and the year after, and they never get you. They just send you rejection letters. And eventually I talked to the guy, and I told my wife, I said, if they would have had this kind of attitude in the 60s, Dewey Balfour would have never played the Newport.
Well, absolutely not, yeah.
So in other words, it's a much more closed circle. To be honest with you, I've always seen myself, I'm in New Orleans area, which is a little different than being in the Lafayette area.
Yeah.
I've always seen myself as sort of an independent guy that's never been connected to any... I don't have an agent, never, I just do everything myself. I'm not part of any inner circle. How can I say, I'm not into the heavy folk music scene.
Right.
I'd like to play certain festivals and all, but I'm not, it seems like it's the same, you see a lot of the same people playing the same thing.
Yeah.
I always viewed myself sort of, to some degree, as an outsider.
Yeah.
Maybe sort of like maybe a Buck Owens and a Merle Haggard or the country music.
Right. Yeah.
They're not part of the Nashville thing, and I'm not really part of any sort of inner circle. I've booked myself all these years. I've made my own records. I've produced my own records. I've written my own songs,
Yeah.
And I've never tried to copy anything else or anyone else.
Right.
In that sense, So I just play what comes from my heart, and it's my interpretation of the music.
Could we talk a little bit about the label and how that's worked out for you? Well, I'm curious.
Yeah, I can't. I'm not sure how much I can say about it, but go ahead.
Okay, sure. Well, one thing I'm curious about, just in terms of the business, have you worked under the same contract since the late '80s, or has that changed over time?
Actually, my contract is probably technically expired.
Okay.
We've never talked about it.
Right.
The first contract I signed, and believe me, I'm not the most astute businessman when it comes to this.
Right.
I signed a contract with Rounder in '86, which was maybe one of the very first Cajun acts they had. They had D.L. Menard before.
Yeah.
And they had put out a Balfour recording.
Right.
Goldberg and I came out around the same time with them.
Yeah.
'86, '87. And since then, they've signed many other people.
Right.
In this area. But I signed a contract, and it was for that. You see, when I made Stir Up the Roo, I went to Ultrasonic Studios.
Mm-hmm.
I recorded and produced the whole thing myself.
Right.
Mixed it, and sent it off to different record companies. And Rounder Records, actually Floyd Swallow, Mr. Swallow in Ville-Platte.
Yeah.
He called me the day he got the tape.
Uh-huh.
And I'll never forget, my wife and I, my father, were getting ready to go to horse racing.
Uh-huh.
Tracks, and we were about to leave to go to the horse races. And I answered the phone. It's Mr. Floyd Swallow. He's playing my tape in the background. I had mailed it like a day before or something. He already gotten it. He wanted me to sign a contract the day he heard it.
Did you know him or just send him cold?
Yes, I knew him.
Okay.
And I like him, and
Right.
I respect him, and I had taken some common friends from France over to his home and spent the night at his house before that. And, so when he called me, and he was like right away, he wanted me to sign with him. I'll Stir Up the Roo, and it's like I thought about it, and I was very, how can I say this, very flattered and honored that he was interested like that. And but then I started thinking, well, I sent it to other record companies. Maybe I should kind of see what their response is before I make a decision.
Sure.
With the first person that calls me.
Yes.
And then eventually, and I like Mr. Floyd Swallow very much and everything, and it was kind of like, it was just sort of like when Rounder, you know how I found out I got on Rounder?
I'm wondering, yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I sent my CDs to Rounder. I sent it to a few other labels.
Now, did you send it to Rounder cold with no knowledge of them? I mean, you knew of the label.
It was cold. I didn't know anybody at Rounder Records. I didn't know anybody who recorded for Rounder.
Okay.
Personally, I didn't have any contact.
Did you address it to a person? An individual?
Probably not.
Okay. Go ahead.
I made this album. It was totally finished.
Uh-huh.
And I sent it to different record companies.
Right.
Now, Floyd Swallow knew me.
Yes, I understand.
I had spent the night at his home before.
Right. Okay.
And I really, liked him and everything, and I still do.
Yeah.
But it was, so I sent it to R. Hooley and a few other labels, Gold Band.
Right.
And R. Hooley said, well, I'll put it out for you, but the record business is real tough these days. You can't really make money. And it was, it was like he said he'd do it, but it was like a real kind of, the whole thing was sort of negative.
Chris doesn't promote anything.
Yeah, and then Gold Band Records said, yeah, we'd do it, and it's in Lake Charles. But,
yeah.
I was realistic. I wasn't expecting to get on RCA or anything like that.
Right, sure.
So I thought Rounder was, I tell you one record company that really impressed me when I did this was Rhino.
Right. Mm-hmm.
I sent my Stir Up the Roo to Rhino Records in Santa Monica, California.
Yeah.
And I got a phone call from him.
Yeah.
And the guy said, we really like this recording a whole lot. He said, but we do not put out new music. We're into compilation.
Yes, that's right.
Like repackaging those stuff.
Uh-huh.
He said, but we'd suggest maybe Rounder. But I had already sent it to Rounder.
I see, okay.
But I thought the fact that the guy from Rhino picked up the phone to call me to tell me that.
Right.
I mean, he didn't have to do that.
With a suggestion, sure.
Yeah, so he actually took the time to call me.
Yeah.
Which I was really, I never forgot that.
And how did the Rounder thing come about then?
I was impressed with that.
Yeah.
So I sent it to Rounder, and cold, I didn't know anybody, and I was playing music at Tipitina's, my regular dance in 1986 or so.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know if you're still catching me.
I got you.
And I was there one Sunday, and this lady came there with long brown hair, and she walked up to the stage. And she said, hi. She said, I'm Marion Layton from the Records.
Okay.
I said, oh, hi, how you doing? She said, we got your tape. She said, we love it, and we'd like to release it.
Oh.
And that's how I found out I was going to be on Rounder Records. It was, I didn't know anybody. I didn't know anybody who knew anybody or anything.
Yeah.
It was just Cole. I sent him a tape, and she happened to be in New Orleans and come and caught our Sunday dance at Tipitina's. And, I was in between songs.
Right.
And she just come and we shook hands, and she said they wanted to put out my record. So that's how I got on Round the Record. I guess that is sort of I guess that's sort of a fluke, I guess.
Well,
maybe it happens. Maybe you've researched it and there's other things that happen like that. But it's just like you asked me how I became a front man.
Yeah.
Well, when I first started playing, I started playing with people I knew.
Yeah.
And it just turned out that out of all the people I knew, I had the best voice.
Okay.
It's not like I automatically started. I say this, I've always, if I played music, I like to play the instrument and I like to sing.
Yeah.
In other words, I like to do the whole thing.
Yes.
I don't see myself as just, playing the background instrument totally. Like if I'm going to play like around the house,
yeah,
I like to be able to, play the whole song myself.
Right.
Okay. So, when I started playing, I was a better singer than anybody else that played with me. So then I was a singer.
Right.
And it wasn't like I considered myself a singer. It's just plus I was the one guy that could really was the most fluent in French too.
Okay.
And it was French music. So basically, when I started playing, the guys that played with me were rock musicians who started playing Cajun music. But I had to pretty much teach them everything about Cajun music and what we played.
Right.
Today, the band members I have know much more about Cajun music. They've followed it now for 30 years or whatever.
Right.
So that makes it more enjoyable.
Right.
To play with, and you make better music when you have people who understand the style more than if they're coming from rock music and you just teach them what you're doing. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And so I just kind of evolved into being a front man. I'm not a bullshitter on stage. I don't get up and say the jokes and or the same joke. Everything I do is spontaneous. Now I may joke around with the audience.
Yeah.
But it's not the same thing from week to week.
Right.
But I do basically like to just play a lot of music and just hit one song after another.
Yeah.
And play and sing as hard as I can from start to finish.
Right.
And so did I take us on a tangent?
Well, it's okay, but I was curious as to, so you're still working under that same contract you signed, whether it...
contract, and, I don't know. I did get a lawyer to help me with that contract.
Right.
That's the only time I've had legal help to speak of.
Right.
They offered me, now I don't know how good this is or what, but at the time, in 1986, they offered me that if they... Well, first of all, Stir of the Roux was put out exactly the way... In other words, they didn't touch it.
Yes.
So they just they just financed taking the album cover and the artwork.
Yeah.
One time I think it was Bill Nolan that told me. He said that it's not often to get a completed product out of the blue. He said about once a year they might get a package like that they don't touch or remix or anything.
Did they reimburse you for your costs? Did they buy it? No.
No. Well, okay. Now this is probably bad, but I don't think I have a choice in this, Michael.
Yeah.
When I signed a contract with them, they could either finance my recordings, and if they financed the recordings, they offered me 7%.
Yeah, okay.
Okay? If I financed the recordings, I'd get 12%.
Yeah, okay.
Now, I don't know,
Depends on your budget, you got to do the math, right, as to what works out better.
I decided on financing my own recordings with the idea that 12% over the life of the record.
Right.
If Stir of the Roux sells 300 copies basically it's still selling a few hundred copies every 6 months.
Right.
So if it sells another 200-300 copies, and for 20 years down the road, that 12%, I think in the long run you're going to make more. So that's why I went that route. So I invest in my own recording and get 12% as opposed to them in the 7%.
Right.
Now, what's happened in the last 2 records, I haven't recouped my investment.
Right. Can you, if you're willing, I'm curious as to if you want to give me a ballpark. What did these records cost?
Okay, I'll tell you. I mean, I don't know if you're going to print this or whatever, but okay, I'm a perfectionist.
I don't know either, to tell you the truth, Bruce.
You know what? I'm a perfectionist.
Yeah.
I feel that if I'm going to make a recording, it's got to be the best I can do.
Okay.
And if it's not the best that I can do, I just soon never record another record again.
Okay.
In other words, I don't want to do something that's 80% of what I can do.
Right.
Or 90. I want it to be the best that I can do. And every record that I've made until today was the best that I could do at that time.
Right.
Like I say, I could go back and recut the songs in the first two albums, and I could sing them better today. I could play them better, you know.
Right.
But at that time, that was the best I could do. You know, it was my 100% effort.
Sure.
And you know, so, but I still would not, like I said earlier, I would not touch the songs themselves. I think songs are the most important thing. In other words, I would rather hear a mediocre musician or mediocre band playing great songs than hear fantastic musicians playing poor material.
Right.
You know, so so I'm still very proud of those first albums.
Yeah.
Okay. So it's got to be the best I can do. If it's not the best, I just soon never record again. So my first album, I went to the studio on Stir Up the Roo, and I ended up spending I've learned something from every album. I've made mistakes on every album that cost me money.
Okay.
Okay. And once again, I'm sort of this independent guy that's never worked with a producer. You know, I've never worked with Scott Billington or anybody like that. I just made records. I sent them to Rounder. My first one, I ended up spending about $10,000.
Okay.
And that's what I got to try to keep, you know, based on what the market is. Now, I made money on that record.
Yeah.
Okay. The second one, I think I spent around 15, I think.
Uh-huh.
To cut down. Okay. My third album, I went over like 20, 21, I think 21,000.
Okay.
And the last one, the Prodigy, I think I went about 25.
Okay.
Now, that's too much based on what the sales are.
Right.
In fact, I tell you what, when I saw the sales on Prodigy, which were around 4,000 copies, so therefore, if I'm collecting... Now, what I don't understand is, I'm supposed to get 12%.
Yeah. But
the 12% on the album price was $1.20 or $1.19 is what they figured out at.
Okay.
Per album when they were selling them for $10. But on the CDs now, they still give you $1.19 royalty.
That's interesting.
Yeah. It seemed like that, and if the price is up to 15, it seems like it should be more, doesn't it?
It sure does. I'd question that one.
Yeah. I don't know if if they do that to everybody or just me.
I haven't delved deeply into all their contracts, but that's interesting. I don't.
So in other words, when I saw that, that first statement that said it sold like 3,953 or something like that,
right.
4,000. Well, then I got a check for maybe $4,700, $4,500 based on that, and I've invested $25,000.
Yeah.
And then they basically saying there's more returns.
Yeah.
I cannot merit doing this again.
Yeah, I understand.
I got 3 kids and a family, and if I'm about 20,000, 15, now I've sold maybe 1,000 copies on my own or more.
Right.
So, and when I sell them, I make, I might make. When I sell one, I make about an $8 profit on it.
You buy them from Rounder for what? $7
I buy
or
them
something?
from Rounder. Okay, Rounder sells them to you for $6 or $7.
Okay.
Depending, if you pay your bill within 30 days, it's $6.
Okay.
And if you don't pay your bill, then it's within 30 days, it's $7.
Right.
And I resell them for 15.
15, yeah, okay.
So I make about an $8 profit. But then I'm not really making an $8 profit because for every one maybe for every 2 or 3 I sell, I send out a promotional one.
Okay, yeah.
So probably my net profit on that might be about maybe $5.
Now, have you talked to Rounder about their own promotional efforts or doing promotion at all for you? I mean, they got a whole department. Okay.
I know there's none of it going on.
Yeah.
Okay, here's another thing. Okay, so based on, to finish the last thought, based on what I saw on the last record, I'll be honest with you, 2 years ago when I first got the statement from the last record,
right,
I was very discouraged. I felt I had made my best record I had ever made.
Yeah.
The most feeling, and the sales were, weren't what it should be in my opinion.
Right.
Based on what I had invested in making the record, I said to myself, well, I can't merit doing this anymore. And for the first time in my career in 20 years, I don't know if I'll record again.
Yeah.
And that may sound, I honestly don't know if I'll ever record again.
Right.
Because, and so all about the same time, I haven't been writing songs or anything. I did come up with a nice waltz around a few months ago. I don't have words to it tonight, but it's really nice.
Mm-hmm.
But for the most part, I haven't written a song in the last 3 years.
Right.
But that's that's getting into a certain mode where you just sort of by yourself and you got time. I mean, I know I could write good songs.
Yeah.
But it's just, but it's a weird feeling when you say to yourself, I don't know if I'll record again.
Sure.
Now, if I could somehow get in there and make a record, I'd have to keep it around $10,000.
Right.
And that could be hard to do. And I want it to be, you see, the reason I decided to produce my own records was I didn't want Rounder. You know how much Rounder offered me to make my second record?
I'm gonna guess about. I'm gonna guess $7,500.
Okay, it was $6,000.
Okay.
They offered me $6,000.
Yeah.
To make my second album if I was going to go with the 7% route.
Okay.
And that's when I decided not to.
Yes.
And I spent about $15,000, but I still made money because at that time the sales were
right.
High enough to warrant that.
Yeah.
But I've kind of gotten accustomed to having a high quality product.
Right.
It's the best that I can do, and yet it doesn't seem like the sales are warranting that. And yet I'm not into this just to make money. I'm into it because I truly love the art form.
Right. But you got to make money, right? For the reasons we talked about.
But I can make money performing.
Oh, okay.
And I don't, so I'm kind of like, how can I justify investing that much money with so little return? I can't.
Yeah.
Now, what I'm going to have to do in the future, if I record again, is have to find a way to record again for about $10,000 and still have a very high quality recording.
Right.
I don't know how well that can be done. At a recording studio, Ultrasonic, where I've made all 4 of my records, is generally considered the best recording studio in this area.
Right.
And I was the first Cajun recording act that recorded there.
Yeah.
And after I went there, I brought in David Doucet to play guitar on my second album on a couple of cuts. And then shortly after that, he liked the studio, so they brought Bo Soler there to record. And many people now recorded there. Steve Riley, all the Zydeco bands.
Right.
But it's $120 an hour.
Wow.
So if you work an 8-hour day, you spend $1,000.
Yeah.
So the money can fly by.
Right.
And, you mixing something, and it's like, you think it sounds real good, and you take it home, and you say, I can tweak this and that, I don't know. I'm not sure how I'm going to approach it in the future, but at this point, I have no plans to make a record.
And it doesn't sound like your ongoing contact with Rounder has been, it doesn't sound like there's been a lot of it. You just send them the records, none.
Hardly none at all.
Do you know them very well? I mean, I know you met Marion. Have you ever talked to her much again?
Well, it was, back when I first recorded for Rounder, one thing I liked with Rounder in the 80s when I first was recording with him, like 86, 87, 88, 89 probably, if I was to call Rounder about something, okay?
Yeah.
The girl would answer the phone. Her name was Kathy.
Yes.
I'd say, how you doing, Kathy? How's it going? It's Bruce. She knew me. I knew her.
Right.
It was some personal. I like that,
Yeah.
And now you get it's a phone machine, and your party's extension, and the people that work there are constantly kind of like changing.
Yes.
So no, I really don't. I only went to the Rounder record place once in the late '80s.
Okay.
When I played in Boston, and I know Ken Irwin.
Mm-hmm.
Ken Irwin's been to my house.
Right.
I see him maybe once a year at a festival, but no, we don't really like. It's not like we're communicating about any strategy.
Sure.
What I should be doing. I've been totally on my own.
Right.
Now, you asked about the recording contract. One thing that's not fair to me, but yet I was given no choice, was even though I financed these recordings, Rounder actually owns the tapes.
Right. That's interesting to me. And I'm wondering if a lot of guys who are in your position are thinking they don't necessarily need record companies, but they got to get very much more into the Internet and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. And they sell them that way.
Well, okay. So Rounder actually owns the tape, but yet I've financed it.
I don't quite.
It doesn't seem right, but I remember when that whole thing was coming up. I mean, basically, Rounder said if we don't own the tape, we don't
Right.
We don't sign an artist.
Yeah.
What's your choice there? Do you want to, now I do have something in my contract that says that if they delete a recording for a period of after 5, like let's say they stop printing up Stir Up the Roof.
Right.
After 5 years, it would be out of print.
Yeah.
The master's supposed to come back to me.
Okay.
So I felt good about putting that in there.
Sure.
Who knows, maybe 20, 30 years from now,
right.
they've lost interest in it, then I'd still at least have a tape of my own recording from 50 years ago,
Right.
And now the first contract was what I told you, and it was for the Stir Up the Root and the subsequent 3 albums.
Okay.
So that's where we at now. So technically, I guess nobody's talked about it, and I haven't talked with Rounder, but technically, I guess I could go with somewhere else if I wanted.
Sure.
We just never talked about it, and Rounder always seems interested when I want to make a record.
Right.
But they don't call me and say, Bruce, you thinking about making a record, or we could project of that one. We really don't talk to each other.
Well, they seem to have a pretty good deal since you bear all the costs, and they just, they have to print them, and they just manufacture them, essentially, do the artwork.
I'll say this. Michael, if I was totally in this for the money, you know how to make money?
How do you?
If money was my object, but money's not my object. I'd like to make money, but I'm into it for a love of the music,
sure,
culture, and making the best product I can art-wise, music. But if I was totally into making money, what you'd do would be go to as cheap a recording studio as you can, or maybe get a home recording studio with a 4 or 8-track machine or something like that. Produce it as cheaply as you can and as fast as you can, and just put a lot of songs like Jolie Blonde and some titles that people are going to recognize, Jambalaya, Diggy Diggy Lie, Diggy Diggy Low, and then keep your costs as low as you can, and then self-print it up, because I understand you can press CDs for $1.
Yeah, it's pretty cheaply,
right? And then go get you a gig on Bourbon Street. And play on Bourbon Street, where I've seen CDs being sold for like $22, $23.
Wow.
So you could go over there and play play for tourists several nights a week, and print them up for maybe $1 something, and then resell them for over $20 to the tourists.
Yeah.
And you could make a killing.
Yeah.
But I don't make records for that reason. I make records for the art.
Yeah, you're not an artist then.
But I mean, for money.
Yeah.
Now, I tell you what, it's getting harder to. I'll give you one example of how I think artists like myself are really getting squeezed out by too many middle people. Mardi Gras World, which is a place where across the river from the French Quarter, where they keep the Mardi Gras floats, and they build the floats there and everything. And they have a museum where people can go and learn about Mardi Gras. And they also have a big room where they have parties.
Yeah.
And maybe once a year I go play a party there. I was playing at Mardi Gras World a few years ago, and the girl talking to Sue, she said, we don't have any of Bruce's CDs in the gift shop. She said, tell him to bring some. He said we could sell his CDs here. And they got tours going through there every day.
Right.
So after I had gone, I had set up the entire PA system and everything. I had maybe a half hour to kill. I walked to the gift shop with a box full of CDs, and I started to talk to the girl about making a deal.
Right.
And normally, what we do in that case, for instance, I just tell them, look, I said, this is what I pay for them, either $6 or $7, and this is what you sell them for. Do you want to kind of meet each other somewhere in the middle?
Right.
So that could either be $10, $10.50, or $11.
Sure.
And then they make about $4 on the sale, and you make about $4.
Right.
Well, I told the girl, I said, she said we pay. I think it was $7 for a CD.
Okay.
To the artist.
Okay.
So I said, well, that's basically what I pay around her.
Right.
And they resell them maybe for $20 or so.
Oh man. Yeah.
So in that case, I didn't leave a CD there. I couldn't make any money.
No, there's no point to that.
You got Rounder who can maybe print it up for whatever, $1 and something, and then I'm buying it from $6 to $7 for them. So they're making $4 or $5 on a sale to me.
Yeah. And
then you got the facility who's selling it. That's going to make, from 7 to maybe whatever they sell it for in their store. They might be making about $10 on their sale. And the guy who wrote the songs and produced the product that's being sold would make a goose egg.
Yeah.
And that's happening more and more.
Yeah.
That something doesn't seem right, does it?
No, I agree.
And, I'm the guy that made the product that everybody's selling. I couldn't make anything.
So where do you see yourself going? You're what? You're 43, 44 years old?
I'll be 43 tomorrow.
Oh, happy birthday. That's
I'll be 43. So, another example, I've traveled to festivals where I pack a trunk load of CDs. I try to pack maybe close to 100 I can take with me.
Right.
95, 100, whatever I can pack. I show up at the festival, and all of a sudden I find out Tower Records is there, and they got my product. See, more and more, these corporations are coming into festivals and selling your product.
I see.
So it's really getting hard. I don't know if Peter Schwartz, anybody, talked about that, but
Not that aspect. Peter's talked about the difficulty of selling stuff, just getting stuff sometimes when he wants, because they tour a lot. He has an opposite problem, which is that the Playboys would do a lot of gigs when he was with them, and he'd want Rounder to get them records shipped so that it would meet them at the gigs, because they can't carry that much with them if they have a schedule, if they're out for months at a time.
Depends on where, right, see.
Yeah, and that would break down.
Oh, that's a problem I have not really encountered, because I haven't been, when I leave, it's usually shorter trips.
Right. You know, they'd need records shipped to catch up with them.
Right. Now, I could have used that a few times if you sell out kind of early.
Yeah.
And, boy, there is no way to predict. There is no way to predict what you're going to sell. You may, pack 100, and, you may sell, you may get a great audience response and then find out you only sold 10 CDs.
Right.
Or it just depends, Here's something kind of interesting that I don't know if anybody brought up to you, but I went to play the Winnipeg Folk Festival one time.
Mm-hmm.
So that was a festival that had opened up to me, and it was really neat.
Interestingly enough, that's where Peter told me that story with specific emphasis on Winnipeg. That was a big breakdown with Rounder.
Oh, he wanted to get stuff shipped there.
Yeah.
Well, I'll tell you what happened to me. I was on a tour. In fact, you see, back in those days, I would drive a lot, and I was also flying, but I would drive in my van. Since 1992, I have not taken a long driving trip. So for the last 9 years,
right,
we've flown everywhere.
Okay.
And if we can't fly, basically, I don't go.
Okay.
I mean, sure, I could, I may drive to Houston or,
right,
within 300-400 miles.
Okay.
But anything further than that, we've been flying.
Right.
Mm-hmm. But at this time, I remember I drove, and I played like Milwaukee Summerfest and, Old Town School of Folk Music in Chicago.
Yeah.
Fitzgerald's nightclub.
Okay.
So I had a whole tour set up for probably 2.5 weeks. And when I got to Winnipeg, but then, see, I could pack a whole lot in a van.
Yeah.
You see, more than if I was flying. Flying limits you.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
And when I got to Canada, I didn't even know what a work permit was.
Right.
You got to have a work permit. Oh, man, we spent hours at the border. And they would, finally had to buy these work permits and this and that. And they asked if I had any product for sale. So I had to tell them I had these CDs and albums, whatever it was. Oh, man, they made me pay sales tax on everything I brought in.
Which you hadn't sold yet.
Which I hadn't sold yet.
Yeah.
And ironically enough, when I came back out of Canada, I didn't sell that many of them.
Yeah.
I still had most of them back in the van. So I had to get the paperwork that said you can apply for a refund.
Uh-huh.
I mean, I spent $700 right there at the border in income sales tax.
Man.
And they assumed that you're selling all of them. And then when I was applying for the refund, they acted like they were doing me a favor, and I would be very lucky if I had gotten it, because I should have gotten a broker before I went into the country with this.
Right.
And fortunately, I did get my money back probably around November, December, Christmas time. But, so that's a whole other.
Yeah.
It's how can I say this? So I don't know with Rounder. We don't really have a lot of communication. They don't really, I tell you what, one thing that I suspect, and Rounder says no, but we talk about promotion,
yes,
and that kind of thing. I think that because I have financed my own recordings,
uh-huh,
that they put less emphasis because they don't have as much invested in me.
Okay.
And I've mentioned that to Ken Irwin before, and he says, "Oh no, that's not true." But I think they're going to put more of an effort to promote people that they have invested money in their recordings.
Well, has Ken talked to you about his feelings about touring at all?
Yeah, we've talked about it. He says, "Well, you don't really tour much," and like I said, it all depends on what you call. I think I've done a lot more than they realize.
Okay.
I mean, I've been to Europe 15 times.
It might be just an issue of impressing that upon them if you think it's a lot. Every time I've ever talked to them or heard Ken give a seminar, and he does a lot of that at things like IBMA and the Folk Alliance, Ken sits on lots of panels, and people want him because of who he is. And just in my own conversations with him, because you finance your own records, they stand to make more money on your records if they sell heavily, because you're paying for it, not them, which seems to me like an incredibly sweet deal for them.
I'm thinking they would,
but Ken wants artists who are going to be out.
Touring a lot.
Yeah, because then not only is it just the idea of
you'd sell them at the shows, so you'd buy more from them. It's not that. It's just that they want artists who are going to go out and set up the radio interviews and the press interviews and do that kind of stuff. They want artists who are going to view touring as a job and do it. Well, I say they want artists. That's far too absolute. I don't think that's true in all cases, but it's a big thing with them. Yeah.
You know, I guess for a guy that's not affiliated with any particular agents or group of people,
Right.
I mean, I've done a tremendous amount of stuff, and I guess even just to sell 5,000 or so copies of a recording is a whole lot for a guy that's not on the road all the time.
Well, I know, that's pretty in the like American, Appalachian old time world. That's what they sell. That's about it. That's their peak.
Right.
Do you know Bruce Molsky at all?
I'm saying that's not really. I guess maybe that's pretty good if you consider I'm not on the road 200-300.
Well, that's what I mean. Yeah, I mean, do you know Bruce Molsky at all? Different kind of music, but
Molsky?
Molsky.
No.
He's a guy in his 40s, really nice guy, and he plays old-time banjo, old-time fiddle, some guitar. He's got a couple of albums out on Rounder, I think 2. And he really, I interviewed him when he came through Austin here, and for one of his records to sell 5,000 is about what he expects. He earns his money on the road and he does workshops, but he has to really work it. He's got networks all over the country of folk clubs or festivals or what have you, and he spends, and he has no children, and we talk specifically about that. That's a factor in it.
If I didn't really have kids or anything,
Yeah.
maybe I could say, well, if I want to spend 20,000, 25 making a record, and I don't get that much in return, well then, you don't feel that responsibility.
Oh yeah, and but he tells me that what he told me was that he gets from Rounder what he needs, but in return, they know that he's out there working this record in communities all across America, which is what he does, and he's away from home. He's out, I guess, about 150 days, and that's 150 shows. He's probably out more nights than that.
That's true. He has a lot of travel time.
Yeah, with travel time, he's probably out 175 to 200 nights a year away from his wife, which is in the D.C. area.
That's a lot, yeah.
Yeah.
If you consider, my God, I mean, if I'm selling every bit as much records as him and not being gone nearly as much,
You got a good deal in that.
I mean, I could probably,
Yeah.
I guess if I was out there, I'm sure I could at least double the record sales.
Yeah, I think you could.
Now, I don't want to, make it appear that I'm, I mean, like I said, I've been to Europe 15 times to play. I just did a tour.